Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 78 Reflections. My name is Patty Lane, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, I decided to turn the camera on and bring you along for a bit of an exploration. I just got back from a week of business travel, and I'm finding myself to feel very ungrounded. And I feel like I didn't do any of the rituals that I normally do at the beginning of each month. So my planner pages are blank for April. Maybe we'll work through that together too. But I just thought I would start by pulling some cards and just thinking through them and seeing what comes up. And I hope that you'll enjoy doing this with me. So the decks I'm working with, I was deeply influenced to get this deck, the Crystal Keys Tarot. I have recently felt a renewed interest in crystals. So when this tarot came up, I was like, yes, absolutely. And then I wanted to use the folklore oracle with it, and also the spirit animal oracle. And I just thought, start by flipping through some cards and seeing how it goes. So I shuffled the decks and just put some cards on the table. And that's when I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn the camera on. So what I love about the folklore oracle is the question. And in this one we have, how might an ending become a renewal? And so to some extent, I do feel like I'm in a bit of an ending. I delivered an in-person training program and I'm home for a while. I will be getting ready to deliver the second in-person training program in a couple of weeks. So I guess to some extent it doesn't feel like an end to me. It feels like a middle, but it could be an end. So how might an ending become a renewal? So we have the Six of Cups, Kunzite, and the Knight of Pentacles. The Six of Cups, I often think of as nostalgia. This is really interesting, seeing the 4 cups in front of the house and 2 on top. The beautiful Kunzite crystal. I do have a very small piece of Kunzite. It's quite expensive. And then we have the Knight of Pentacles. So we have this watery feeling of nostalgia, which makes sense for me where I'm at today. But also this grounded moss agate and the Knight of Pentacles, which I often think of as farmer energy. And so I think that with endings or even transitionary period, allowing ourselves to have all of the feelings and reflect on what happened, maybe what went well, maybe what didn't go well, but then also not staying there too long and grounding into what needs to happen next. And I really like the Panther spirit, reclaiming your power, as the card, kind of the final message. And I think I needed to hear that this morning, reminding me about my strength, and that I might feel tired and worn out and weak right now, but I can rest and reclaim my power. And that's going to be important because the wheel of life is continuing to turn. The well. Where lies the source? I think this is a good question for me when I'm feeling really drained. And here we have the Ace of Wands, the Sunstone. and the Six of Swords. And so the Ace of Wands is that spark, that inspiration. And I always think of the Ace as this gift that is given to us that we can choose to accept or reject, of inspiration. Maybe when we feel uninspired, which I'm feeling uninspired right now. And then the Six of Swords, that invitation to leave behind what no longer serves us and move forward. And then we have the koi fish spirit reminding us that there is always enough, and not to get trapped in this feeling of scarcity. I feel myself feeling scarcity right now. I only have 13 days to have to leave again. That's not enough time. It's not enough time to rest, rejuvenate, and get ready for the next program. But the koi fish spirit is here to remind me of abundance. Do what within you needs to be refreshed. I just feel like these cards are all about me today. I'd love to hear if any of these messages are relating to you too. Yes, the Hierophant and the Ace of Swords. Oh, we just had the Ace of Wands, and now we have the Ace of Swords. I love the Hierophant card. It is my life card. I do really identify with the Hierophant in that sense of teaching, and particularly in my role. You know, I worked in this industry for 25 years, and now I'm the teacher. And I'm able to tap into my teaching background, which I love, but also share my knowledge. And so that's really, for me, the Hierophant is about visibility, sharing your gifts with the world. And then the Ace of Swords, another invitation, this time for clarity of thought with the Amethyst. So what within me needs to be refreshed? I guess a reminder about my why. And then maybe some clarity of thought. And sometimes, you know, I find I'm an introvert. So when I spend a lot of time being extroverted, I feel really off balance. And so clarity becomes really important for me. Clearing my mind. Dream the world into being. With the Lizard spirit. I think that, you know, what does the lizard do while they're hanging out there in the blades of grass? And I think I would really benefit from some time in nature to refresh and renew myself. Let's do maybe two more. Mirror. What do you see reflected back to you? And oh, okay. The Devil and the Page of Swords. I love the black obsidian for the Devil. And, you know, the Devil is, to me, always an invitation to consider the chains that bind me, and self-imposed chains. And so, you know, when I think about the question, what do you see reflected back to you? I see what's hard, what's challenging right now, for sure. And maybe, you know, as I mentioned, that scarcity mindset of, you know, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy. Those are, you know, self-imposed chains. And also, you know, what do I do with this time? Do I get drawn into doom scrolling in social media, or do I make the most of this time? And the Page of Swords, look at this imagery. Isn't it beautiful? I always think of the page as the court card that does something with the ace. So we were offered the Ace of Swords already, that clarity of thought and that inspiration. And now look, the Page of Swords is grabbing onto it, and there's butterflies and beautiful sky. So it's that invitation to curiosity. And maybe you're not taking things quite so seriously. These cards are very contrasting. And then we have the squirrel. Believe in yourself. You know, the squirrel keeps busy. The squirrels are always busy. I don't know if you notice this, but I observe squirrels a lot. They're always busy. They're always doing something, but they don't doubt themselves. I don't know if squirrel spirit is accessible to me right now, but it might be. Might be. One more. What dark energy can you cast off? That would have went really well with the last pairing, wouldn't it? Look at these two. Both pink. So we have the World, Rose Quartz, and the Five of Cups, Rhodochrosite. Love both of those. So the question is, what dark energy can you cast off? One of my favorite interpretations of the World card talks about how, you know, the world is the end of your journey and you're forever changed because of what you experienced on that journey. And, you know, the next step is the Fool again. And so I think that, you know, spending a lot of time reflecting on what maybe could have been better probably isn't a great use of energy. It's probably a better use of energy to think of how you can move forward. And in terms of what dark energy can you cast off with the Five of Cups, you know, that feeling of grief. And are we focusing on the cards that are spilled, or are we crossing over to the cards that are still full? And we have the Peacock inviting us to let it shine. I'm actually really enjoying this this group of cards. I don't normally work with 4. I usually work with 3. Okay, I know I said that was the last one, but I'm very curious about this one. What will you follow? Foolish fire or your heart's true knowledge? That's a good question for me right now. And we have the Four of Wands with crazy lace agate. And the King of Swords. That's very interesting. What will you follow? Foolish fire or your heart's true knowing? It's interesting because when I go on my next trip, I'm going to a wedding, and the Four of Wands is often, you know, a wedding card. And I often think of weddings as a bit of following your foolish fire. So that's kind of interesting. But the other thing about the Four of Wands, it's about, you know, starting out on your own. It's that leaving the home and going out, starting your own family, or, you know, blazing your own trail. And I think the King of Swords, that wisdom of clarity of thought can be really valuable. And then we have the Rhino, overcome any obstacle. That's really interesting. I have not spent time in the guidebook for either the folklore or the Crystal Keys Tarot. Let me just take a look at the Four of Wands. I'm curious what they have to say about it. I don't know if you can pause that and take a screenshot if you want to read it. I don't know if you're going to be able to. It looks, my lighting is not quite right, as per usual. What is home to you? For many of us, home is our childhood. It's a place where we felt innocent, free, and safe. Some of us, though, don't have those connections. For you, perhaps home is in a friend group, a particular time in your life, or within yourself. The Four of Wands is that time or place that is home. It may align with a homecoming, returning home. I did just return home. The Four of Wands moment, I need to recharge and regroup after a hectic season. Four of Wands is an invitation to reconnect with your family and your why. Crazy Lace agate is known as the laughter stone as it carries the energy of joy, happiness, and mirth. It reminds us that joy and laughter aren't passing emotions, but states of being we can root into. As an agate, Crazy Lace energy is slow and deliberate, mirroring the energy of security of the Four of Wands represents. The swirling patterns reflect life's spontaneous and unpredictable nature, but instead of getting caught up in the charge, it grounds us with joy. Joy and celebration are feelings we can cultivate and take refuge within, not just experience in passing moments. Crazy Lace agate reminds us that when we feel safe, we are full of laughter, embracing who we truly are, whether we are home, whether your home is a destination, your family, or group of chosen loved ones. Well, it's interesting because I am invited to a neighbor's celebration tonight, and I really don't want to go because my social battery is so low. But I think that might be an encouragement to go. What about the King of Swords? Tanzanite. Wise, authoritative, and intellectual, the King of Swords is a rare individual indeed. Possessing truth, authority, and objectivity, this king stands on business by being true to his commitments and impeccable with his word. He is highly respected for doing so. The king has abundant life experience, which provides informed perspective, allowing situations to be seen for exactly what they are, keeping emotional triggers at bay. The King of Swords may be asking you to look at your situation from the unemotional position of impartiality. Cut to the truth, gather as much information as you can, and then act from a place of wisdom. Tanzanite is an extremely rare crystal that opens us up to wisdom and self-awareness. It infuses the King of Swords with the compassion required to make decisions from a place of loving leadership. When we are acting from truth and wisdom, Tanzanite ensures the messages are delivered with kind candor. While the King of Swords is asking us to look at and communicate the absolute truth, Tanzanite slightly softens the message so that it can be received in the most beneficial of ways. Very nice. Wisdom and self-awareness. And then the Rhino spirit is there to say we can overcome any obstacle. I really like that grouping. So as I mentioned, I got home and felt very ungrounded. And one of the things that had thrown me off was that at the beginning of April, I had a lot going on, so I didn't even complete my planner, which I had been doing kind of the last week of the month ahead. So normally, the last week of March, I would have looked at this in April. I'm going to see if I can adjust my lighting. I don't know if this is any better, but... So the first thing I noticed, I had pulled cards from 13 Sacred Nights at Winter Solstice. And for April, the card that I pulled was the garnet. And here's my garnet. This is a gift from my daughter, beautiful garnet. I keep this by my bed. And I was just glancing through this and noticed it talks about grounding, increasing physical vitality and health, encouraging feelings of calm, confidence, stability, and general well-being, stepping into your worthiness to receive vitality, abundance, and peace, and going towards peace, love, and joy, and moving away from negativity or disruption. So you can see here I've filled nothing in, almost nothing in. These were the cards I was going to work with in April, but I actually ended up working with those in March. And in April, I have been working with, do I have them nearby? Oh yeah. Have been working with Bonestone and Earth Flesh, this deck. I really love the artistry in this deck. One of the things I found a bit challenging traveling with this deck was that she's got a lot of stories in here. I didn't really feel like I had the bandwidth for that. And so I had wished that I'd taken a more straightforward deck with me. It was fine though. So I don't know what I'm going to work with for the rest of April because I am feeling as though I want to work with something that's really familiar to me, maybe for the next, like for the first part of April and the first part of May, because I'm going to be getting ready for a program. I'm going to be traveling. It's going to feel busy. So in May, I had said Shadowland, Wild Unknown. You know what? Shadowland's a favorite for me, and I find it very easy to read. So I might do that. I might do Shadowland. If you've watched some of my other videos, you may know that I had set out to work with 26 decks in 2026. So that's what I've kind of outlined here. These get the check marks. I did work with them, but I'm going to be ready to move on. So I think the Shadowland Tarot sounds great. And maybe I'll grab the Shadowland Tarot and do a quick spread for April. That might be helpful. I absolutely love the Shadowland Tarot. I've got this bag for it too, which I love. Here's the book. I was just looking in the book to see if they had a good spread. It is a new moon tonight. And there's been a lot of talk about the new moon. The spread that I was thinking, 4-card moon cycle. I don't know. If it was a new moon spread, I might do it, but I think I'm going to do this one. The transition spread. Just if you want to take a screenshot of it. So it's basically the first card describes a major change you have just undergone that has affected your decisions. The second indicates where your first transition led and the transition you must now face to move forward. And then the third card indicates a transition you still need to move through to achieve a goal. I think that works. Let's try it. Why not? Oops. Definitely feel like I'm navigating times of change. Which, well, this deck has a sense of humor. It's showing me the Ten of Wands. It's saying, I hear you. I see you. You're tired. I appreciate the Shadowland Tarot so much. So let's ask. What is a major change? What is a major change or transition that I've gone through that is affecting my decisions? What is the nature of this change? Okay. Two of Swords. Two is about choice. And with Swords, it's our our thoughts, ideas, perceptions. But a really interesting thing about the Two of Swords is all that water, our intuition behind us. And what I often think about, especially with this imagery, you can see crossing their arms over their heart as a self-protective method. And it's got a blindfold on. Maybe doesn't really want to see what's ahead. And I do feel like I'm in this transition where I'm just trying to take one step at a time and not worry too much about the future because it's out of my hands. And so I feel myself wanting to block out the noise, block out the distractions, and just trust myself, trust my own knowing. So I do think that that's a good representation of the nature of the transition I'm going through. So the middle card is, what is the transition I must now face to move forward? So as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm in a middle meadow right now. When I talk about a middle meadow, I think of, you know, when you're climbing a mountain and it's a steep climb and you're kind of tired and you don't really know how much further it is, and you get to what you think is the top, but then you realize it's not the top, it's a middle meadow. You still have a long ways to go. That's what I think of when I think of a middle meadow. That's where I think I am right now. Just climb this really steep part, but there's lots to come. The Emperor. So the question was, the transition I must now face to move forward. So the Emperor card, I usually think of as the good principal, as in a school principal, and the one who makes sure we have all the things that we need in order to be happy and successful. So he wants to make sure we have recess, that we have lunch, but also that we have good teachers and healthy boundaries, and, you know, all of the things that we need in order to thrive. And that 4 is all about stability. And so, you know, as I'm in this middle meadow, preparing for the next climb to get to the top, I think what this is telling me is that, you know, I need to not just focus on the climb, but make sure I'm meeting all of my needs as well. So for the last card, so that's the transition I must face to move forward. And then the transition still ahead to meet the goal. Apparently I can't stay in the middle meadow. Might like to just stay here for a while. Maybe there's like a warm spring. You know, I can pitch a tent, make a fire. So what is the nature of the transition that I still need to navigate to reach my goal? Five of Cups. Let me zoom in a little. Maybe that's a bit better. This is an interesting imagery for the Five of Cups. When I think of the Five of Cups, I think of having all of the feelings and navigating difficult emotions, and sometimes, you know, having a hard time moving forward because of all of the emotions. And I think sometimes it can be about grief, and sometimes it can be about regret, and I think sometimes it can be kind of a mismatch of all of the things. Let's see what the guidebook says. Let's see, can you see that? If you want to take a screenshot. Talks about disappointment, grief, overwhelm, frustration, hopelessness. It can be feelings of overwhelm. Also warns of a victimization trap, or convincing yourself that you're helpless in your own life and that you can't change. Your current situation may be causing you grief, or you may be focusing on what's not working, and that you are not recognizing where joy is possible. And so I think this could be an invitation as a transition to not push away the feelings, to feel the feelings, but to navigate through them. So I'm going to pull one more card. I know this was supposed to be a 3-card spread, but I like to get an advice card. I usually work with the Wild Unknown with this, and I probably will, but what advice do you have for me moving into the next few weeks? What advice? 3 of Cups. Here's the thing. Here's the good news. I do have some hard stuff ahead of me, but I also have lots of opportunity for 3 of Cups moments of bonding and connection and enjoying life. And so the Shadowland Tarot once again steps up for me in helping me navigate forward. So I am going to work with the Shadowland Tarot, I think, from now until when I get back from my next work trip. And one of the last things I thought we would do is I like to pull a card from the Spirit Animal Oracle, this deck. I've been doing it each month this year. And then what I do is I choose a word based on that card that I pull. And I already pulled the card before I turned the camera on this morning. And the card that came up was Whale Spirit, Trusting the Great Mystery. And the first thought I had looking at this card is, you know that feeling when you jump off the dock or you jump off the edge of the swimming pool into the water and you're like plunging down? And it's this feeling of, for me anyway, it's this feeling of release, but also a little bit of fear, like how far am I going to go down? Am I going to go right back up? And there's a lot of trust required in that moment. And it goes by so fast that usually, before I can start to panic, I'm back up at the surface. And then that feeling when you get to the surface is just so joyful. And so I've been thinking about what word would I like to use to navigate through this period. For April. Because usually I put a word here inspired by that animal. And I don't usually like it to be, for example, whatever they say here, trust. I don't necessarily want it to be trust, but I do want it to be something connected to like this whale energy. And the word that came to mind for me with the whale spirit is immerse. And if I'm being honest, I don't always love the guidebook from the Spirit Animal Oracle, but I actually did kind of like it here. And let me read to you a little bit from this guidebook. In the hidden realms, where all things must gather first before manifesting into form, whale spirit is the keeper, singing the soul of the whole world from the deepest waters of the coldest seas. When whale spirit appears, it is a reminder there is a great mystery that you must accept without intellectually trying to understand it. Some things cannot be known by the mind, only experienced through the heart, through intuition, and through the peripheral senses that part the invisible veils separating the visible world and the great manifesting consciousness in the hidden realms. Now is the time for you to immerse yourself in the great mystery of spirit and to trust that within the invisible, what you can't see now are the seeds of intentions being tended to by the angels. And so for this time ahead, the word that I'm going to choose is immerse. And I'm going to encourage myself not to just get through the next 30 days, but fully immerse myself in it and experience all of it, looking for the gifts from within. So that's all I have for today. I will be doing a journaling spread on the word immerse, and I might add an image of that in my community page. I'll try to remember to do that. But that's what I have to share for today. I was inspired to do this style of video from Marlena. She does her at present videos. And so I thought that's what I would do today. So thank you for being here. If you made it through to the end of this video, put a whale emoji in for me. I would love to see that, or anything to do with the water. If you're more a mermaid person, you could put a mermaid in. But thank you for being here. Please like this video if you do. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. And until the next one, may the cards bring us truth bombs when we need them and gentleness when we don't. See you in the next one.